You're listening to the Progressive Mind Show, your number one community building show in the world. Every Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. CST, live on Facebook and YouTube. Join us as we discuss pertinent issues that relates to you and I with your host, Alinko.
Very talented young people who have decided to follow.
Then another year it starts again. Well, this is different.
We should definitely be talking to these wonderful people. Once again, we urge you to share the feed on Facebook.
Hi there, I'm Faida, and today we're going to be talking about the African diaspora in Mexico.
Whether UK likes it or not, I have to leave this country.
I became a member and a chief of the Vice Lord all in one day.
All these guys, winds are out of the north at Midway Airport.
His father.
Rising beans. Okay, kids, we have had to come to an end of this beautiful set.
It's not about this.
This is the inside account of a week that brought the Rainbow Nation to its knees.
Right, essentially trying to inculcate into this. Welcome, everyone. This is the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Senna, aka Alinko. This is where we build our communities by engaging you and I in very important dialogues, such as this one that we're going to be talking about today. The question is, did Africans participate, contribute, play any role in the transatlantic slavery? This today is February 2nd, 2022. I've seen it on social media. I'm sure you also have. The numbers are significant. The numbers 2222022 is the first time ever, and I hope that you'll be cognizant of that and make a mark of it. We are very glad that today we have the opportunity to come and serve you. We are also very excited to have our co-host be with us to begin February, Black History Month, and it's going to be an eye-opener. We ask that you join this conversation because this is what we do. We engage the community in these very important discussions. We will be going to Capital Mike segment in a little bit. When we come back, we would go straight into the discussion this evening. Capital Mike is ready. I know the weather has been rough. Please go ahead and give us the updates.
All right. Right now at Midway Airport, you're looking at winds out of the north, about 20 miles an hour, gusting up to 30. So it's about 25 degrees, but it feels a lot colder than that. Snow is stopped for now, but it's going to be blowing and drifting, so watch out for that. But we're going to have a little bit more snow, that lake-enhanced snow coming later tonight, which may drop another inch or two. And we're going to have a little bit more snow tomorrow, so I know you're looking forward to that. So looking at the forecast for the rest of tonight, we're going to have winds out of the north. They're going to be gusty, up to about 30 miles an hour. I'm going to revise that forecast at 4 to 6. We're going to call it 1 to 2 more inches. Tomorrow, we're looking at gusty winds out of the northeast, 10 to 15 miles an hour, high of 25, low of about 23. Friday, southwest winds 5 to 10 miles an hour, high of 23, low of 13. And it's going to get windy pretty late. And same Saturday, we're going to start with some gusty winds early, and they're going to kind of calm down and dissipate throughout the day. High of 20, low of 7. Same thing Sunday, mostly cloudy, going to have winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Monday, we stay dry most of the week. Going to stay in the 20s. Lows are going to be in the teens. And Wednesday is going to be our warmest day, 32 degrees, but we're going to have a real chance of snow, and winds are going to be out of the west at 10 to 15 miles an hour. So it's going to stay dry for the rest of the week after tomorrow, but we're looking forward to that snow again on Wednesday. And looking at sports, Senegal defeated Burkina Faso 3-1 to get into the finals of the African Cup of Nations. Tonight, Jamaica plays Costa Rica, and the U.S. faces Honduras in soccer. We'll go into the health and fitness report. And we have a report from the Journal of American Medical Association for Internal Medicine. They have a study that shows 10 minutes of physical activity a day can save up to 110 American lives per year. The CDC reports that 60% of Americans do not get enough physical activity. So the U.S. Physical Activity Guide recommends 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity a day, or per week, or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity per week, or a combination of those two throughout. Moderate to high intensity muscle strengthening, so hit those weights activity twice per week, and a lot less time sitting. We sit a lot too much. That will help increase our lives. Some tips to help you get started to becoming more active. Start easy, walking, cycling, something that's fun to you, cardio machines, dancing, sports, cleaning up the house, working in the yard, shoveling snow, walking stairs, parking farther away from the doors when you go shopping, and play with the kids. Do something that's fun. For more information on this article, go to blackdoctors.org or blackdoctor.org. And also, as we say here on the Progressive Mind Show, before starting any type of new physical activity, consult your doctor or your medical professional. And with that, Sina, I'm going to go back to you.
My brother, thank you so much for giving us this update. And I know we're just talking about the weather a few minutes before we went live. One of our guests actually has to attend to, his family member. Let me just put it, his wife, because there was a situation with the weather, with the snow. So it's an emergency that he has to attend to. So unfortunately, we will not be able to start the show with our one of our guests, Dr. Apostle Kanayo Odeluga. So please bear with us. But Captain Mike, we appreciate your time and the updates. We look forward to seeing you next week, same time. Please be safe, drive safe, because you already know how it is.
Yeah. Well, if I can find my car in the parking lot, I'll drive safely.
Yeah. We hope so. If you can't, for any reason, 911 or maybe 311, maybe, or 911. Any of them would do, right?
All right. You guys take care. Be safe
and see you soon. All right, brother. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. That was Captain Mike with the segment. We will go straight into the discussion this evening. Did Africans contribute to slavery? And it is I think it's a controversial topic, especially within the African diaspora, more specifically within the African community. It's a very sensitive topic. And each time you raise it, you have opposing views. Sometimes it gets very heated. The last time I mentioned something about it on the show, I had a lot of backlash from some of my friends, and it's a good, it's good. We need to have this. We need to engage each other in these type of conversations. So we are glad that beginning Black History Month, we want to start this type of convo. It's not to say that this is what we do on Progressive Minds, but we want to really look at the back end of our story. And we also want to tell you, and you've seen on social media, that we have a co-host. We wanted to do this based on where we're going, the work we've done, and what we want to achieve. We feel like Michelle has the credibility and has the passion. This work is about passion, more so than anything else. And Michelle, and so we are glad that we are going to be moving forward as a host and co-host type of relationship on the Progressive Minds, and you'll be seeing us doing a couple other things that we have been already doing in our community. So, ladies and gentlemen, people of the world, welcome, and let me introduce you to our new co-host, Michelle O'Connor. Michelle, you're welcome to the Progressive Mind Show officially.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. For some reason, your volume just is a little low, but I think
Can you hear me now?
yeah, we can hear you. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, I'm just very, very excited to be a part of having impactful dialogues across the world. I truly see it as a privilege and an honor to have this discussion and just be a part of the Progressive Minds team. I really look forward to learning from everyone, including you, Alinko, and our guests that will be on the show as well, and us all growing and continuing to make a bigger impact as the show progresses.
Thank you. Michelle is a lady of few words, but very smart. So we would be hearing a lot from her. And thank you for a beautiful introduction. People would also want to know a little bit about you, but I think that maybe if you want to share, or maybe as the show progresses, you can share that. But before we continue proper, I'm sure some loved ones are watching you. So you want to take a minute to recognize and say hi to those loved ones. Michelle, go ahead.
Absolutely. I just want to give a shout out to my team, WDB Marketing. We have a Legacy Awards coming up. I am in branding and marketing. I started off here in Chicago as an event planner. My company, MCO Designs, I've been doing it for 7 years now. And I progressed into marketing and branding, as well as media. I've been on radio shows. I do a little bit of public relations strategies for some of my clients. And I also have a passion and a love for people at large. I love working with people. I love helping people, whether it's help them grow their business, help them grow their image, their brand, or just be a listening ear to listen to something that is concerning to them and use it on my platform to amplify those issues. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm here as a servant. I'm here as a servant to the people, to our audience. Any questions or anything that you have pertaining to branding, marketing, or really anything in general, I encourage, our audience to definitely reach out to me. I love you guys, and I'm so grateful. And I want to give a shout out to Darian. He has asked me to give him a shout out. So hello, happy Black History Month to you.
Yeah.
And thank you again for the opportunity to share.
You're welcome. So that is our co-host, Michelle O'Connor, and we're looking forward to great things on this platform going forward. Before we begin, though, how significant? Now, I wouldn't say how significant because it is already significant. But Michelle, as Africans, we have come to know about Black History Month. When I was in Ghana, I never knew about it. But when I came here, of course, you have celebrated or been part of lots of Black History Month.
Yes.
Can you maybe use the opportunity to help give us an icebreaker on the importance of Black History Month as it relates to the entire diaspora, not just African Americans? But of course, you can start with African Americans, how you all feel and how you all take it, how heavy that is for you, and you can link it to the diaspora if you may.
Yeah, so I can't speak for everyone in the diaspora. I can only speak from my own experience. I grew up here in Illinois. I'm from the South suburbs, Calumet City, but born in Chicago. Black History Month has always been a very important part or time of year for us as people of color because if we know the history of the transatlantic slave trade and just slavery in general, our ancestors were stripped from our culture and our practices and our beliefs and essentially our culture. And so we were not able to pass that down generationally. And so celebrating Black History Month is a way for us to connect to our culture, a way for us to connect to our roots, to our ancestors, and celebrate the collective accomplishments that do not get acknowledged or go uncelebrated. There are so many inventions and so many beautifully minded intellectual people of color that have dedicated to the overall wellness of how our society operates as a whole. For example, the the lights, traffic lights. Like we wouldn't have any way to operate that way. So I'm just saying, as a child, it was very important. We were a part of all kinds of recitals, programs. It was very important that we learned our history, or we learned the history of the pioneers before us. And that was a way for us to be proud of our history, and to highlight it, and learn about it and share it with others in the month of February.
Thank you. Did you say traffic lights? So you mean the black man invented traffic light?
Correct.
Wow.
Among other things, I mean,
A lot. Yeah.
African Americans have made, I mean, the microphone. I mean, we just literally have, you know, a slew, a long list. And I'm sure our Facebook friends can definitely chime in and give us a few inventions that Black inventors have contributed to our society that we use today.
Yeah.
Yes, there are a ton. And so just exploring those topics as a child, you know, was very enlightening for me and helped me to connect to say, hey, if someone can invent something like this that can impact a whole society, you know, and residually, because we still use those inventions.
Yeah.
What is it that we can do as a collective, as a whole? Because those are just individual inventors, right? But
Absolutely.
what do we invent as a collective? And I think that's what, at least the biggest focus of Black History Month should be, is unity, collaboration, and celebration.
Wow. Very powerful. Unity, collaboration, and celebration. Let's take this time to introduce our guest for this evening. As I mentioned, Dr. Apostle Kanayo Adeluga is supposed to be part of our discussion this evening. Last minute emergency due to the weather, so he has to attend to that. We are hoping and praying with him and his family that everything goes well. When he joins us, we will continue from there. But right now we have William Osei, Elder William Osei. He is with the Pentecost Church in Virginia. This man is a brilliant guy. He's also a CEO of Farm Consults. He's an agriculturalist. He studied in Ghana, got his degrees there. He lives in the United States, Virginia, of course. A great man with 4 kids, 4 boys. I hope everything sits within the family. He's married with 4 boys. Brother, I'll say, when I first heard you speak last year about the diaspora and all of that, I was touched. And so, you know, over a year, I've been trying to reach you. I've been able to get in touch with you now. Thank you so much for accepting to be on the show. You can take a second to tell our audience a little bit about you, apart from what I've just said.
Basically, that's all that you have said. I always want to use the elder because I represent the church body, which of course is my calling. And God bless you too. God bless you for such a platform. You know, the whole Christianity is about reconciliation. We trying to reconcile people to God, and also reconcile men to men. And that is where the love aspect comes in. Right. And I believe that your platform is a place that we can use as a medium to reconcile people to people and people to God. And so I'm so honored. I'm so honored to be part of the program tonight.
Thank you.
And I know by the end of everything, people that are watching us right now will be blessed.
Exactly. We hope to change some mindsets today. If we're not able to change it, at least spark your curiosity about the subject matter. Okay, that's because right. We're not a custodian of truth. However, we are very excited. We are always motivated and ready to look at things and to talk about issues that may not be popular. Issues, some very hard truth that are facing us as a people in the community. And so feel free to join us. It is an open discussion. Now, did Africans contribute to slavery? Again, I'm not a historian, but everybody can read. Everybody can do research. You know, I grew up in Ghana, Africa, and I heard stories, not necessarily a lot about my own connection to slavery. That story wasn't told us. Our ancestors playing the part or not wasn't told us. How, you know, it all went down, the essence of the slave dungeons and the castles that, you know, that are littered on the coast of Ghana. We were not taught what they meant. and how significant it was related to us as the people, as indigenous of Africa. But of course, we're all not young now. They say when you were young, you do things as, when you're a child, you do things as a child. But when you grow up, you have to be your own man, your own person. So what has not been taught us is what we have to find. There is education and there is education. Education, I believe, the real education is finding and learning about who you are, where you come from, and what you stand for, your identity. Once you have been able to do that, or once you are doing that, you begin to have more confidence in yourself. You begin to love yourself more. Because there's one thing to identify who you are, and there's another thing to love yourself. If you identify yourself and you love who you are able to love yourself and accept yourself, hence extend love to others around you, right? And also see the world from a different, or from a loving perspective, and not from a closed eye. So why we do these things is to spark again some of these things that we have not been taught. Now, my research tells me that Africans were participants or participated in slavery. They contributed to it one way or the other. Now, people have given different versions. Oh, we were just, it was an indentured slavery type of system and all of that. We will play some videos as we go along to authenticate our argument. If you have opposing views, please feel free to share it. I want to go to Elder. Elder, we also want this in this convo. Also, we want to look at what, like Elder Osei said, what role can the church play? How significant is the church, Christians, to the reconciliation or the reaching our relation when it comes to our relationship with the fellow diasporans? How significant is the church's role in this movement or in this conversation? So Elder Osei, you grew up in Ghana. Can you give us a little bit background, your educational background in Ghana, so we can get a feel of where you're coming from?
So like you mentioned earlier, I went to KNUST, which is Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
Yeah.
Where I read the program BSc Agricultural Science.
Mm-hmm.
And so my whole background has been farming. And that is why I have the consultancy, which is Global Farming Consult.
Okay.
And what we are trying to do is that I'm trying to connect the African Americans who wants to go into farming in Africa. I actually have 2 affiliates in Ghana, 2 companies that are ready. Everything is ready. Everything is set. And are ready to help African Americans go into farming. Not just African Americans, but African immigrants that are here and really want to go into farming, specifically cocoa farming. We are into more cocoa farming. I think it's one area that is booming in Ghana. When we talk about Ghana, we talk about cocoa farm, right?
Yeah,
cocoa farm,
yeah. And cocoa is what is made, what is used to make chocolates.
Chocolate, yeah.
Some body lotions, and all of that.
That's right.
Misha, I'm sure you already know that, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested for the record.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Your volume, I know was.
I said I'm familiar and I'm also interested.
Okay.
You said what? Wonderful.
Well, Bishop, we'll come to you in a second. But Brother Osei, you just confirmed that you went to school in Ghana. You went to all the way to the highest institution.
That's
or
right.
The highest level of education, formal education. Were you ever taught thoroughly African history, Ghanaian history, and then secondly, slavery and how it's all connected? Were you given that type of education?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really, yeah. I have to be honest with you.
No.
Yeah,
no, I knew you're not going to lie. You're an elder of
oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for the honesty. And that's the point. We were not taught this. Okay.
That's right.
So that's why when I said there was an education for us to do as Africans, it's very, very important. That education, we have to seek it out ourselves. We were denied that. But that's another conversation to be had. Having not gotten that education, when you came to the United States, what was your perception? We'll go to Black History Month. We'll talk about Africans' role. But what was your perception when you came to the fellow Black people, not just African Americans, but Caribbeans? When you meet other nationalities or other folks from other for other folks from the Black community outside your traditional, your Afghanian community, how did you perceive people? And
Yeah,
how was your relationship with them? I'm sorry.
That's right. So before I came here, I'm trying to put it right. It's a big platform.
Yeah.
So I was very ignorant about the mothers of the Black Americans here. We only see them in movies, and we hear their songs and the kind of culture and the mannerism they portray in the songs or in their music videos. And as a church leader, I always thought these guys are bad people. And I have to be honest, like I said before. So I did not really have a good impression about them until I came here in the United States. If you want me to continue with my experience here in the United States, I'll go on. So before,
take a breather on that, because that's heavy.
That's
Michelle,
right.
we've said a lot already.
Yeah.
You want to say anything at all before he continues?
Yes, I think that us having this conversation right now is a perfect example of how powerful media is and a platform is when you use it for good or for bad. I know historically speaking, in America, there has always been an agenda that has been pushed by the media and government at large to bring division amongst the diaspora. And part of the way that they do that is through media. For example, music, they do it through music because you have corporations that own these large labels that are not owned by people of color. So they may be under pressure to perform a certain kind of performance.
Right.
And their hands are tied, right? So the whole point is they have the control to continue to push that agenda of division, because we too have our own things that we were taught as well about Africans here in the States and how we should interact with you all as well, or that we shouldn't interact with you all at all, because the media has portrayed to us here that your countries are underdeveloped, that you all do not have the same type of living accommodations that we have here in the United States, and that's just not true.
Wow. Thank you for adding your voice to that. So, Elder William, now you're on the stage and you realize it's not true. How did you go about, first of all, clearing those things you had in your head, and how were you able to relate and create relationships with, again, fellow diasporans, specifically African Americans, Caribbeans, and whatnot?
That's right. So back home, I would say probably we're living in ignorance, right? I did not have much information about my brothers here, or my cousins, as we refer them to.
Right.
But coming here in the United States has exposed me to knowledge, revelation that I didn't have before. Now I know that it's because of their struggle that has given me an opportunity to be here. I was telling my wife this evening that what would have happened if our brothers here did not fight for the opportunities or the systems that we now having. I would probably have come in as a slave, right? They put their life on the line and they fought for us. So I did not know this in Africa, but I have to come here and learn. I have to come here and learn. I have to come here and read. I have to come here and research. We were not taught. So now the whole perspective have changed. And again, I was even telling my wife that as African immigrants, we have to come together, set up a day or a month and celebrate our cousins here, because they have really, really done well for us. We have to be grateful. We have to be grateful.
He said, set up a date or a month so we can celebrate each other. Michelle, what does that sound to you?
That sounds like music to my ears, honestly. I think that there's so much of that needed. I think that there needs to be a lot of camaraderie and embrace, because there is a painful stain in our interactions with one another culturally, our communities, because there's just a lot of stereotypes that we have believed, that we have been taught, And also there, because of those stereotypes, there may be a feeling of being disconnected. And so you said something key. You said cousins, and I love that, because we literally are relatives. I mean, can we at least acknowledge that we literally are related, whether we know each other or not? And so it's just like any family, you have division, and we got to work on the love in our family and our culture and heal that, because there's a lot of pain there. There is a lot of pain there, especially for people that are here, African Americans here. There's a lot of pain, and we feel rejected because we don't understand why we're being rejected by our own family. If you think of it in that way, I can't speak for everyone else. I can only, speak from my experience. But I would love to hear from you in terms of, if you could expound a little bit more about the stereotypes that you have taught. I know you said that you heard some of the music and saw some of the movies. Are there any other things that you may have had in your mind that have been destroyed since you've been here and interacted with African Americans?
I think it all has to do with cultural diversity. I think it's you guys have left a very long time ago, and now you are living a new life, a different culture. You are into this American culture, and we are coming in with the typical African culture. So definitely there will be some indifferences, and I think it's part of it that has brought this stereotype. There's a lot I can say here. I don't want to mention them.
Mention
but I
them.
think it's all has to do with ignorance. It all has to do with ignorance.
The reason why it's important for you to mention is because that is how we can heal, brother. That's how we can heal. Because if I'm not honest with, and some of the things, the things you've said, I agree wholeheartedly.
That's right.
And this is the platform. If nobody knows me, Alinko, at all, and everybody that knows me, I'm even a little bit more passionate and stronger on these topics when I'm offline. Okay.
That's right.
And I'm more candid. So there is nothing, and I've said things openly here. We started this thing in 2017. These conversations are needed. Whatever it is that we need to say, if we have to say to our brothers and our sisters, like you said, and our cousins here, and say, look, this is how I thought about it. This is how I felt about you. But I don't anymore, because I have learned. I have come to understand the things I don't know. I am willing to learn some more. So let's do what you suggested, Michelle, reason why I asked you if that sounds familiar. So, okay, you are not familiar. You just joined it, so you get to. So the exchange ceremony is exactly what you said. That every year we can come together and celebrate ourselves. And for those of you who are who know the progressive minds and are familiar with the exchange ceremony, that's exactly what it is. During the course of the show, I'll be talking more about it. But brother William, go ahead.
Okay, so what I know about my cousins here is that they have been brought up to speak up for themselves, of course, and which they do. They will speak up for themselves. Africans, we are not like that. We are that very calm, quiet people. And growing up in African home, hardly will you stand up for anything. And we think it's a good thing, right? So when we come here and we see our African Americans speaking up for themselves, we think they are arrogant. So in the minds of every African, many Africans, African immigrants, we think that these people are bad people. They have this arrogant attitude, very bossy,
aggressive. Sometimes we use the word aggressive.
Very aggressive. And at the workplaces, you don't want to relate with them. So that's one of them. That you guys are very aggressive, and you are very arrogant, and you don't respect. But like I said, when you sit down and begin to read and research and get understanding, you will find out that it's all about differences in culture. They speak up for themselves. If they had not done that, I don't think they will be where they are right now.
There you go. That's the whole point.
That's right.
Because and it will get us to our participation in slavery in a bit. Because everything that happened, they were a very small minority in the whole of the United States, or in the whole of the diaspora. And they had to not only fight, but they had to endure everything. And if you don't know, you have to keep researching. Our brothers and sisters went through hell, literally. But guess the point you made is they did not succumb to it. They had to fight it, and they kept fighting it for centuries. And because they have been able to fight and fight, like you said eloquently, we now can come here and do everything for free. We can come online and talk. We don't have to have hot water of horses being poured on us. Nobody chases us with dogs. Nobody hunts us, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we don't Africans don't go through that. We can become naturalized citizens and votes. We can do everything we want to do. So Michelle, you were going to say something. Go ahead. I get carried away, but go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just going to answer that point with what you were saying, Elder, about the arrogance and how it can come off. I know Black women in particular, get stereotyped as an angry Black woman. But I think that we as African Americans feel that that's very disheartening, because we literally have to survive daily, in society and defend ourselves, right? If we have any listeners here that are from Chicago in particular, you guys know, and I know too, that this is sometimes it's a violent city, there's a lot of violence. And so just the psychological impact and ramifications of living in that type of environment, and you have a society that tells you that you are worthless, that you have no value, and that you're not important, and then you have police or law enforcement that harass us and kill us in the streets, kill our children, and it doesn't matter if you're a woman or not, they'll kill you too. Sandra Bland was a great example of that. So there is a lot of things that Black people have to defend themselves and protect themselves from on a daily basis. And I don't think anyone is going to be in a good mood regularly if all they have to do is always fight for their rights, fight for their voice, fight to be equal, fight to even be seen equal. I mean, even to this day, our laws are still, supportive of, not supporting people of color or protecting people of color. There's still the 1/3 man rule that pertains to Black men in this country. And in 2022, that should not be.
Yeah.
It should not be.
So thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing. So, brother, I'll say you were saying these are some of the stereotypes, some of the things that we think, and it was real for you too. You thought like that once, right? Because and me too. I thought so, like but I had to change my. I had to learn. I have to fight through that because I was curious. So what were the processes that you went through to get to know that these things are not right? How did you get to that understanding of where you are now?
Learning and listening. And I work with them too. I work with them at the health field.
Okay.
And when I sit down with them, I remember one time my supervisor, who's a white woman, called me into the room and said, "How are you able to relate to them this way? They all love you." And I said, "Yeah, because I have understanding and I have love in my heart. And I know that they are my cousins. I know it's one blood that runs through us."
How did you know that they were your cousins? How did you come to that realization when we were really not given that education? How did you come to that realization?
I like the word realization. It's all has to do with realization. And that's what the church is meant for. The church is there to help people realize themselves. When you live in the flesh, that is where you think in the flesh. And that is where you harbor all this hate, and you're not ready to learn and to move forward. But the church is there to bring some of us who are so ignorant, right, to come to a point of realization and have that love and understanding in our hearts. And when you get to that point, you don't stereotype. You don't stereotype. Yeah, you don't stereotype. Whether they are white, you don't stereotype. And when you get to that point of realization as a man, that is where your true love, your genuine love really come on board. And I think I have gotten to that point. So they are my cousins. You will
say that you being a Christian helped you to extend or to help you to be open-minded,
That's right.
to reach out even more,
Mhm.
to help break your own bridge.
That's right.
And that's very powerful.
Mhm.
It's 6:40 already. Okay, it's 40 minutes past 6 p.m. already. We are on the Progressive Mind Show. Today is different because I'm not hosting alone. I have my co-host Michelle. Again, we've had a conversation so far about this particular topic. What would you want to say so far about the progress of this discussion so far?
For myself,
Yes, I mean, yeah, for your yes.
I'm enjoying it very much. I have a lot going on in my mind.
That's why I asked you, because I can read. I'm reading about the body language, and so whatever you have going on in your mind, please go ahead and share, because our listeners would like to know what's going on in Michelle's mind. It's 40 minutes past 6 p.m. Central Time. We are still waiting. Hopefully, Dr. Adeluga, wherever you are, we hope that God is with you and taking care of you and your family, so you can get sorted out. Once you get situated, Dr. Adeluga is going to join us. The crux of this convo is: did we participate in slavery? We'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. Go ahead, Michelle. Get all the things that you were thinking about. Get it out.
Well, I'm just going to say this. So I had mentioned to Alinko before we had the show that during the civil unrest here in America with the murder of George Floyd, our community as a whole went through a lot. Our foundation was really shaken, especially in pertaining to our faith and our religious practices, particularly, I would say, Christianity, because it seemed as though here in America at that time, when we felt that we really needed the church to kind of back people of color, especially since Black people have been so dedicated to the service and just the Christian church and the religion abroad. It was, for me personally, disappointing to kind of see the church not really take a position on really what's right and justice. So I would like to hear from you, Elder. What is your position, or what is the position of you and your church as a leader? Because it's great to love and all of those things, but if people don't have love in their hearts, if they don't have a heart, right?
That's right.
How are we able to mitigate that and speak up for the injustices? Because the church has power.
That's right. Yeah.
So where I felt like, as a fellow American, I felt like there was a lack of using that power or that platform to really bring change and support that movement, the Black Lives Matter movement in particular. Not to say that it should be political, religion should be political. However, if we're speaking on just of the basis of unconditional love and helping people in general, what is the church's position on backing, people of color in terms of what is going on here in America?
Right. Yeah. I get a question. So in order not for the church to be political, right, we always start from the basis. The church is there, like I said before, to bring men and African men to a point of realization. We are there to elevate the consciousness of a man, and it starts right from the family and in the auditorium. The church is there to, as part of the team for this year, and my church, Church of Pentecost, we are equipping every member. The Church of Pentecost is equipping every member to be an army to possess the nation. What does it mean? We are training people to live right, to have power in themselves, to stand up for the right in society. This is a church. The church is not on the street protesting. The church is empowering individuals by bringing them, elevating their spirit, building them up. I think that if every church take this mantle and really see up to it and work it well, There's so many things we hear in the news and outside. We will not even hear them anymore. The church don't have to wait, sit there and allow whatever to happen before we say we want to go and protest and speak up. We have to start right in the corners, in the auditorium. So the church is not the building that you guys see. The church is not the organization that has been portrayed to the world. The church itself is a spiritual thing. It's a spirituality. And spirituality means taking a person from the lower frequency to the higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the more we do, the more we empower, the more we equip people. Genuinely. I was in ignorance. I was in the lower frequency of life. But the church empowered me. And now I'm thinking right. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking right. If everybody give themselves up, if people with the Black Americans here, if you guys give yourself up and allow yourself to be equipped, allow yourself to be built up, edified, I think that there's so many of the things that we hear in the news and outside the family homes and everything, we will not hear them. We will not hear them. So we cannot really charge or blame the church too much for not standing up for especially the George Floyd thing. The church should have rather make sure that our brother George was empowered and equipped. That one, if you come in, I would say we'll take the blame. And that is why we are going out there to possess the nation. So we have to possess the man first. We don't have to leave George to go out there and act in a way that will bring about all that happened. I guess you understand. I'm speaking like an African. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm speaking like an African, so that you may not get some of the understanding.
No, I think it's clear. Mm-hmm. Where I differ with you on this is great job with what the church is doing.
That's right.
But I think like when you say if Black Americans will allow themselves to be edified and empowered.
That's right.
That's where, because I feel like they have. You see, they also have churches. Mm-hmm. They have all types of leaders from the Louis Farrakhan's, the Al Sharptons, Reverend Jesse Jacksons. Those are the higher ups, right? You have folks like Killer Mike, Dr. What's that doctor's name? He's on social media all the time. Michelle, I don't know if you remember his name. I'll remember his name and tell you. But there's so many of them that are doing this. If I said doing this, trying to edify Black men, Black women, the youth. If you notice, you and I grew up on hip hop, 90s hip hop, rap. Back then, a lot of the rap artists or rappers, hip hop artists, when you listen to their lyrics, if you listen to someone like KRS-One, right, you get a lot of deep knowledge. Like they had messages that were edifying, even though there were a lot of, there was some street, language in there. But what I'm saying is that they have been edifying their people. Again, they've been doing it for centuries now, more so even now that there's more enlightenment, there's more information out there, there's more social media. I think what we Africans don't see is that we think they're now doing that because we see a lot of issues happening to them. It's not because all of them purposely want to be in trouble, but it's just that even when they're not trying to be in trouble, the system finds trouble with them. You were in this country when we heard about Trayvon Martin, right? Mm-hmm. Trayvon Martin had a very bitter, experience. I mean, he died. May he so rest in peace. He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't in that position that got him killed because he wanted to do something bad. He just went and bought some candies, right? Mm-hmm. But the system see him differently than what he should be. So the system affected him, unfortunately, in a way that caused him to lose his life. And again, someone like George Floyd, regardless of what happened, people engage in some of the things that was acclaimed that George Floyd did, but they don't necessarily end up losing their lives. Okay.
Mhm.
The guy, we've seen a lot of shootings and atrocities happen to African Americans. We see them on TV. So if what I'm saying is that not all of them, the one that happened in is it Madison, Wisconsin or something, the guy that was shot live on camera, him and his girlfriend were in the car, and the girl was doing live and he was shot. I don't know if you remember his name, but we'll try and get his name for you. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times you don't have to put yourself in any situation to be caught in trouble. Yes, people have done bad things and the law had to deal with them. So is it in Africa, in Ghana. If you do a bad thing, if you do something bad, the law will catch up with you, right?
That's right.
But we also know that a policeman will just now run up on you and say, I think it looks suspicious standing in this area, and within a few arguments you could lose your life. Bro, you and I didn't grow up like that.
Let me come in here.
Yeah.
Before Michelle come in. Michelle,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm always speaking like an African. So
no, you are.
yeah,
She understands. She
you
understands.
see, let me say something, and I want to be honest because of my position. See,
Yes.
and nobody should take this into. I want to be honest.
Please, let's do
There
it.
are about 481,000 Nigerians in America.
Yeah.
There are about 231,000 Ghanaians. I'm from Ghana. So if you add other countries, probably we are more than 1 million.
Yeah.
You will never hear in the news. And of course, we are all black people. We never hear in the news that an African is having a banter with a law officer.
Okay.
Why? There have been so many times that I sit on YouTube and I watch many of the videos, and I think in myself that, oh, at least my cousin should have exercised some little patience.
Okay.
And I think the situation would have been calm. Michelle, you get what I'm saying? Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
You can put it right for me if you see what
No, I see what you're saying. If a policeman pulls you over and he says, and requests for your driver's license, you don't have to argue with them. You don't necessarily have to engage or be rude or be aggressive with the policeman, because at the end of the day, if something bad happens, it will be you, right?
That's right.
I remember Wyclef was arrested. It was in the news maybe 3 years ago, 4 years before COVID hit. Wyclef was arrested, and he came on social media and he spoke about it. He said he didn't do anything. He just allowed himself to be interrogated. He got handcuffed and put in, and he was taken in. A few questions were asked, whatever. At the end of the day, he went home free. And he put it this way: he said that could have gone any way. Had he tried to resist, had he tried to be aggressive, it could have ended anyway. So he was giving an example of sometimes how to conduct yourself when you were pulled over, or when you encounter the law enforcement, or when you are in certain situations. And so yes, you were right. A lot of times our brothers and sisters can do certain things, right? And I know that folks, leaders within the African community are teaching on this. I follow some of them and I hear them. Like I said, I mentioned someone like Killer Mike, and I'm going to have to get this doctor's name. Michelle, you want to add your voice to this? Now, just want to remind our audience that our viewers that we're still going to be talking about whether Africans contributed to slavery, but we're waiting on one of our guests who's going to help us understand that. We also have some videos we're going to play, but a lot of times we want this conversation on this platform. Our conversations are very organic and open, and so we're having these conversations beginning Black History Month. This is our history, this is our story, so this is all part of it. So please feel free to be part of it or chime in, and please bear with us as we go into some of these things. We will definitely come back to the discussion on hand, which is what Africans' involvement in slavery. But Michelle, go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to say, you mentioned, Elder, if, people of color, when they get pulled over, if they had had a little more temperance with how they conduct themselves. And I can agree with that. However, even in that act in itself of them being pulled over, they may be annoyed because it's an act of harassment. They actually may not have really done anything to actually warrant being pulled over. Let's acknowledge that, one, because being Black here is a target. You're targeted. Two, as a person who is native to here, when you are not native to this country, you're not going to be targeted in the same way. And people will know that you're not from here. Or, you get what I'm saying? So they're not going to look at you just because you're a melanated man. They're not going to categorize you as African American or a descendant of slavery. They know that you are not from here. And so the way that they handle you is going to be different. Okay, it's just like if we were foreigners and we came to your country, you all are going to treat us probably a little bit more differently, than your own community members because we come from different places. So, that's something to be acknowledged. Also, I have one other thing that I wanted to ask too, is as it pertains to the church. I'm not sure.
Just please, before you ask, I also want to ask, why would we are all Black people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they treat you different and treat us different? What is happening right there? I want you to give me a clue. Why they want to? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a big difference because one, they know what how the law pertains to us. They know that they have authority in terms of being able to exercise their authority over us. So we are more subject to that authority and that discipline or those ramifications, as opposed to someone who may just be visiting or here for a visa to work. It just may be temporary. Two, even if it is a routine traffic stop or a routine whatever, it should never have to result in a person's life being taken from them because they simply expressed their disinterest in the situation. I have watched white people argue with the police, fight with the police, resist the police, and went into custody. We never heard about them being harmed. We never heard about them having a scratch, let alone being murdered by the police. So again, all of those things go back to slavery. Those are, again, the ramifications of living in this country here on a daily basis as a descendant of slavery, because we are still targeted and we are still categorized to be treated differently than any of our other counterparts, foreigners, white people, anyone different. We still receive the most maltreatment here in America. And it's just what it is.
William, you want to respond to that, William? Have you seen any video on social media of maybe other races, resisting arrest and going scot-free? Have you seen that before? I've seen many of those. I've seen many of those.
Okay.
I've seen, some like literally heckling policemen. I've seen some overpower, law enforcement, and then they get into their car and then they drive away. So have you? No, I'm just asking sincerely. Have you seen any of those videos on social media?
I think I've seen one or two, and it was between a white cop and a white man.
Okay, and nothing, and then nothing happened.
And literally, it was worse. It was war of worse, not aggression, right?
Okay, so
they speak back to you, and they speak behind, right?
Yeah. So I think that we have Dr. Kanayo is here. Thank God he made it. We let you tell you. We will let you tell us the story, okay? But Dr. Kanayo, I don't know if you were following the story, our conversations on your drive here. But I will let William respond to what Michelle said, because and before you do that, it's a very powerful point you made, William. And you said oftentimes you don't see Africans, have this type of confrontation with the law enforcement, right?
That's right.
And it's because, to the point that you made earlier, I don't know if but you made a point which is similar to what I'm about to say. The way we were brought up.
That's right.
Just be obedient. Don't talk back. You can't even look in the eye of anybody. You can't look in the eye of your parents. You can't look in the eye of elderly people when you're talking to them. Subservient. Always be submissive. So we somehow have become timid. And it's the reason why African politicians can take advantage of us for decades, because they know we're not going to speak for ourselves. We're not going to protest. We protest one time, and then they threaten us with a gun or gunshots, and then that's it. We all go home and sleep, right? So So we carry that. Even back home in Ghana, if a policeman pulls you over, you're shivering. If you're not shivering, you know what to do to get away. You know nothing's not going to happen. You're just going to have a word with him, exchange something here and there, and then that's it, right? So we have that attitude already. And so being timid, being polite, dealing with type of corruption or whatever, not so structured system in Africa. When we come here, we see the policemen. And most African policemen, now they are armed. Before they didn't have too much armory on them. They had no guns. You and I, when we're growing up, you hardly see a policeman with a gun, right? So here, if you see an American policeman with a gun, already you're like, hey, this one I have to be steady, right? So you comport yourself. Even when you are right, you don't say anything. You just, officer, I beg you, officer, I beg you, I beg you, because that's the same way we behave in Africa. Officer, I beg, officer, I beg. And so we come here with that attitude too. So if you always say, I beg you to officer, you're used to doing that. So 9 out of 10, the policeman is okay. You're not going to agitate him to take it to the next level. But like Michelle said, if you have a culture where you've had to fight to survive for everything, you have that in you. Plus, the person that oppressed you for several years and oppressed your ancestors is the same person that is staring in your face. You've seen them oppress your father and your grandfather and your people. So now that you've grown to be an adult, you see the same person coming at you. You already have that defensive mechanism already in you. So even though you could have acted differently, again, per their history and what they have had to go through, sometimes these tendencies come out, right? And it's not because they necessarily want to rebel, but it's just the mindset and what they've had to go through. I don't know if it makes sense, LW.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. And that is why beginning, I didn't want to say or mention any stereotype. Looking at the foundation that you just laid, you guys should always be excused, right? Yeah, looking at the foundation, because you were treated so bad to the point that, and I always say that if you treat somebody like an animal, expect an animalistic behavior, right? If you raise somebody like an animal, automatically they will grow and behave like animal. So looking at the foundation that you just laid, I think you guys must be excused. And that is why I didn't want to say any stereotype, because you guys have really suffered. But then it's not a matter of intimidation. Not that we are timid. Let's take the African immigrant out. We also have children that are born to us here in America.
Okay.
And you don't hear news like that about them.
Because the way we train them.
That's right. And and that is why the church is there. That's why the church is there.
The church comes in.
The church comes in.
Right.
For the equipping of the saints. We are trying so hard to equip even our children that are born here. Because we know that if we don't do that, they can fall into the hands of the cops and everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a very interesting conversation so far. Dr. Kanayo, so Mazi Kanayo K. Odeluga, he's a doctor. He's also an apostle at Christ Oasis Ministries South Campus. Doctor, we would let you say a word in a minute. We'll take this short break. When we come back, the conversation would continue. Please share the feed if you're watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. Tell a friend and tell a family member that we are discussing these issues that pertains to the African diaspora. We are also going to look when we come back from the break, how Africans participated or contributed to the transatlantic slavery. This is Black History Month. It is for all Blacks globally. And so we urge you to be sensitive to this convo. We will be right back after this. Welcome back to the show. This is Alinko, your host, and our co-host.
Michelle. Bye.
We are excited. We're beginning the month of February, Black History Month. Historically, it's also history for the Progressive Minds because the first time we are having an official co-host for the show, and so we are aligning ourselves to history. And as we celebrate Black History Month, let's be very cognizant of the fact that Black History Month is not only peculiar to the African Americans in the United States, but I think that it connects to all of us, all Black folks across the globe. And specifically, we're going to be limiting our conversation to Africans or Black people in diaspora, specifically in the United States. Dr. Odaluga, Dr. Mazi Kanayo Odaluga is an expert in this field, even though he's not a historian. But correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know you as a historian. I know you as a medical doctor and an apostle, a pastor.
That's right.
Good. Okay, so I'm right there. But
no. But I would like to challenge the idea that we are not all historians.
Oh, okay.
Because all of us have a story to tell.
That's right. That's true.
And that's what history is. Your story, his story, my story, your story. And so really, it's our story. So every one of us is a historian. You can tell the story of your life and your forefathers and your journey in life.
Well, okay. So Mazi Kanayo, you were back. You were welcome to the Progressive Month Show. This is the first time.
Thank you so much. And I didn't know I was going to make history. Now, the first time that Michelle is on the show as a co-host. So
you see, it's all coming together. It's all Mazi Kanayo is also a host of a powerful talk show called Straight Talk.
Yes,
man, we started together at a former radio station, but he's at WVON. Powerful conversations. If you want to hear deep stories, deep political perspectives, man. Tell us about that. How is that group? Do you still have the same team running?
Oh yes, we still have. I'm one of the co-hosts of Straight Talk Radio, featuring my Community Plan Foundation, and we are on Sundays at the WVON 1690 AM from 7 to 9, and the 8 to 9 hour is dedicated to the African diaspora. And so, but 7 to 8 we do micro, local, national, just talking about issues that affect human beings. So it's great to see you, Alinko, and you're doing a great job, keeping the flag flying.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I used to call them the three wise men. Man, if you listen to the three of them talk, oh my God. What else? What are you involved in, Dr.
I mean, part of the I was listening to the conversation you guys were having when I joined, and a shared common experience is something that should not be lost to us. I don't think there's a difference between those of us who came into the African diaspora later and those who've been here since the last 400 years, because frankly, we've had the same experience. We've been under the same yoke, but different times and different kinds of experience.
There you go.
For example, you guys were talking about police. I don't know about when they came to the present day Ghana, but because before then it wasn't really Ghana. There were Ashanti Kingdom. There were other kingdoms that ruled itself, that sustained civilization over centuries before the Europeans arrived. But for example, for the Igbo nation, when the Europeans arrived on our shores, we had no police, no courts, no prisons, no standing army, and we lived in tranquility. And so they called it what they call it was a ordered anarchy. How could you say it's an ordered anarchy? Because the people had values.
That's right.
And they maintained order based on shared common community ethos. Now, the police force in Africa, the military in Africa, has always been, and the root of it, and also in the Americas, is means of social control of the African. The American police is formed around making sure the Africans do not run away from the incarcerated plantations where they were placed. The same thing when the colonial masters, the very same people who trafficked on our people, eventually returned to take control of the means of production within Africa. They had to use their police force and the military to subjugate us. It wasn't like an easy thing. So they had to have. So the police had this foundational role that it plays. So it's never been about being, to serve and protect when it comes to both Africans on the continent or the African Americans in the American diaspora.
Okay.
It's the same. So a shared common experience is what unifies us.
You're right. Thank you. On this platform, we like to also teach African culture. You are from Nigeria, you are an Igbo man. What does the name Kanayu, what's the meaning of Kanayu?
Kanayu means let's keep asking God.
Thank you. You see, that's
my middle name means thank God. Then my last name means Odeloga. Where there is peace, there's progress.
Oh. Wow. Okay. All right. So thanks for that. I'm an African. I didn't know this. So it's something beautiful to know on the set. I've known you for a long time. I've never asked.
Yes.
And so thanks for sharing. What role did Africans play in slavery?
Do you want us to? Yeah, we have to. This is straight talk, right?
This is straight talk.
So 2 things that I will say.
Okay.
And that is one of the things that for most of our friends and our brothers and sisters in the African diaspora, it's a painful thing to talk about it. The slave trade, which I now call human trafficking, left victims on both sides of the Atlantic. In the sense that all over Africa, there were fathers and mothers that went to their grave mourning for their loss of their children that were carried away. And so there were also Africans who were coming to the Americas under one of the most heinous and devastating experience that human beings have ever faced. Chattel slavery was very destructive. On African coast, we still today have castles and fortresses. Europeans could not have come to our shores, built those by themselves, with themselves, if not the participation of Africans. And so it's a myth that needs to be debunked. Our people participated. And to the extent that it became a lucrative trade upon which many empires in Africa was built. Mansa Musa's empire, Mali empire was built on the human trafficking, trans-Saharan slave trade. So many other kingdoms, chiefs participated. And if that is not, even as we speak now, African leaders are still participating in this human trafficking that is called slavery. Now we call it human trafficking. I give you an example. The reason why both of us are talking, all of us are talking, those of us, my brother from Elder William, yourself, Alinko, the reason why we are in the American diaspora is because African leaders took money from international monetary agencies, put it back in Western banks, mortgaged the opportunities and potential and the abilities of their children, and forced many Africans to now walk across the Sahara, swim across the Atlantic, and submit themselves voluntarily to some of the most degrading conditions that Africans currently face, not just in Europe, but in the Americas, simply because of the same thing that was happening during slave trade, where chiefs and kings were given in exchange for gunpowder and military equipment. They brought their people and they sold them into chattel slavery.
Thank you for sharing, Dr. Delega. People also say that so they made machine guns. We were, the reason why they were able to succeed is because they had machine guns and we didn't. And I'll play some videos during the show. But before I follow up with that question, Michelle, I don't know if you have any question or any comment so far.
You said so much, Apostle, but I think it's important to acknowledge that. I think it's important to expand that conversation. And earlier in this conversation, we were talking about the arrogance of African Americans as, as it's perceived by Africans. And someone said in the chat earlier or in the comments that, people feel, is particularly African Americans feel there's a stain there in that relationship, or even connecting to our African brothers and sisters for the feeling of betrayal. That slavery is a very painful stain in our past. And I think that if we could just continue to acknowledge it and continue to have the conversation, I think that it would really help us heal, or at least try to make some sense of the trauma and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and that is real. Because think about it, there was a measure of rejection that was involved.
Very much.
And if I may go to a model that I always use, the story of Joseph speaks to what we're talking about.
That's right.
You see, Joseph was sold by his brothers. And the reason why that happened, because there was a breakdown in the family. And all through Africa, you see that kind of breakdown. People kidnapped other people's children. People gave away their own kids. Other families attacked other families. There was a breakdown within the African culture that allowed us to do that, what we did. And so think about it. Joseph was sold because his brothers hated him, because he had privilege. He did not become a slave in Egypt. He was made a slave by his brothers when they stripped him of his humanity, stripped him of his inheritance and heritage as the grandson of Abraham, and put him on the block and told the Ishmaelites, you can buy him. And so they paid for him. So he arrived Egypt a slave, made a slave by his brothers. Now, Jacob mourned, and there was a lie around his absence. And so for years, that lie has been circulating within Africa that we didn't know what happened, or they came with guns, they confused us, they didn't tell us this is what it's going to be like, or we thought it was like the normal indentured slavery we had in our own
culture system.
No, that's all part of the myth. But the truth of the matter is, when Joseph succeeded in Egypt, just like the African Americans have really succeeded in the American diaspora, in a measure where they are at a better position than the Africans.
Yeah.
And so when we come to you now, we're coming like Joseph's brothers. And when they arrived in Egypt, guess what? They did not recognize Joseph. So that's why I'm not as surprised what the comment that was left. There's a disconnect. Sometimes you see, because Michelle, you don't speak Igbo, I'll say, she's not my sister. But history and DNA now is proven 5 to 6 out of every 10 African American has at least one Igbo ancestor, because a lot of Igbo people were sold. Among us, if you find people from our cultures, all the African immigrants you have here, you could identify. Let me share this. I did my DNA ancestry. I have 5th degree cousins all over the Caribbean, about 5,000 of them. People who have tested the DNA, put it in. I'm 99% African, they say, Nigerian. But I have DNA cousins to the 4th and 5th degree. So people whose ancestors left at the level of my great-grandfather, which is maybe late 1800s or early 1800s. So this is real. And so the rejection that Joseph suffered, and because the fact that by the time they saw Joseph in Egypt, he didn't look like one of their brothers. But Joseph recognized them, just like a lot of African Americans will see us and say, oh, that's my African brother. But I think people will say, he doesn't speak my language, he doesn't behave like me. Oh, he doesn't behave like you, but think about what happened to the Africans that arrived here.
Yeah.
They came from various cultures within Africa and forged one culture within that incarcerating place called plantation and developed a language, developed a culture, and contributed immensely, not just to the infrastructure growth of America, but the cultural growth of America. Our contribution is enormous. So the Africans in America are survivors. And like the Josephs and they are the Josephs of our time.
Yeah. Elder William, I don't know if you have any comment to add so far. I think that we were getting feedback, so yeah, you're good now.
Yeah, so when it comes to matters like this, I always apply common sense. It's a known fact without argument that indeed we were complicit in the slave trade. For instance, Ghanaians have been slamming the Chinese government or the Chinese people for coming to Ghana to exploit us of our natural resources. And so one time, a Chinese diplomat was talking to a group of people, and he said, "We are from China. We don't know where the natural resources are in your soil or in Ghana. So how can a Chinese man come to Ghana and start exploiting the natural resources? That means that there's another man."
Yeah.
And I think I apply the same scenario to the slave trade.
Yes.
They will not just come and force to take our people. At least there will be people that were dealing with them. So I always apply common sense, and I think it's a known fact.
Thank you.
You don't have to argue with. We sold our brothers.
Thank you. Let me get another comment here. So this is a question for Michelle. My question to Michelle: how Black Americans see discrimination?
I'm not really clear. Discrimination amongst ourselves in terms of colorism, or are we speaking of how we perceive discrimination externally?
Yeah. So Johnny, if you can rephrase the question or be more direct with it. The number to call in is 815-277-5047. If you want to share your opinion or ask a question, the number is 815-277-5047. We are beginning Black History Month on the Progressive Mind Show on February 2nd, 2022, with the question or the conversation: did Africans participate in slavery? And so please feel free to indulge yourself in what we're talking about. Black History Month is African History Month, so I guess I can say that because it's all tied in. This is our story, this is our history, and so it's very appropriate that Africans participate in this conversation. Dr. Fraser says, yes, we are truly survivors. The hand of God has always been with us. We have fortitude and strength that many others do not have. The Lord made us to be overcomers. You see, this is a very powerful point, an interesting one. African Americans talk about God a lot. A lot of them are Christians. They believe in Jesus. And to a larger extent, a lot of them speak to what Dr. Fraser is just saying. God has been with us, and all of that. And there was a lot of prayers that were made during the struggle. But in this day, a lot of African Americans who then believed in Jesus believed in God and Jesus now are turning away from it, right? Michelle, I know a lot of them are turning away from God. The same God that they claim helped them through slavery and brought them this far. So what's up with that? Another platform we can discuss that. There are some videos that I want to share with us. To augment the conversation that has been ongoing so far. Again, please feel free to share your opinion and your comments as we look at it. So let's take some time, some of them like 3 minutes, but please bear with us as we watch some of these videos.
Lands in the New World.
But Uncle Nat says the Europeans weren't going out and capturing Africans. They couldn't. They got sick and died from illnesses like malaria. So some African ethnic groups went into business, warring with other groups so they could capture prisoners they sold as slaves to the Europeans. Uncle Nat says they were organized and intentional about it.
To pursue slavery successfully, you need a highly organized group because somebody has to lead an army there. Somebody has to capture them, transport them to the selling centers, all the time, keeping an eye on them to make sure they don't revolt, and then sell them and move on.
Anyone could be captured and taken. Eventually, the Portuguese were replaced by the Dutch, then the British in Ghana. Then, around the world, came the abolitionist movement, the French Revolution, and increasing revolts by enslaved people, all spreading ideas about equality and humanity.
Of course, when the slave trade was abolished, it was a result of a long negotiations with slave owners in Europe, as well as with slave owners here. The big slave-holding nations also demanded repayment.
The British made treaties with African chiefs to protect them from other ethnic groups in a series of wars. Uncle Nat says the British used those agreements to eventually declare themselves the colonial rulers.
They hoisted the flag and claimed that they were now sovereign.
It was 1874. During British rule, Uncle Nat says the African role in the slave trade was deliberately forgotten.
There is a willful amnesia about the roles that we played in the slave trade. Our chiefs and peoples decided, all right, we will not talk about it. Don't ask, don't tell. They created a mythology that we were innocent bystanders whose land was raped by Europeans.
In 1957, Ghana became the first African country to break away from colonial powers and declare independence. It was the height of the U.S. civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke at Ghana's first Independence Day. African Americans started to travel to Ghana. Uncle Nat was in his first year at university. He and some friends were asked to serve as guides.
So I remember they asked us, so who was sold? We said, oh, only the bad people, thieves and drunkards.
They were just making it up because they didn't actually know what had happened.
Especially since the history had never really been taught. And what history was taught was very sanitized. It was a disaster. A lot of African Americans were very disappointed to find this kind of blasé attitude.
This was about the time Mona Boyd first came to Africa. She had just graduated as...
So thanks for engaging us on that. This is not Amatefio, if I get the name correctly. He was a former mayor in Ghana, and basically was telling the story and telling the history there. We apologize that we couldn't get you the name of the reporter, but this report was gotten from BGS IBMOR. It is a news. This person, I think they are news bloggers, and so we got this information. I know this man personally, and when I saw the story, I thought that we could share it. We do have some comments on some comments coming through that I want to read. But anybody wants to, Dr. Maze, Kanayo, William, Elder William, and Michelle, I don't know if you all have any comments to make before we proceed to the comments on the feeds that we are having now.
I would just like to make a point too, with regards to you all as men of God, and I show respect, of course. But I'm not sure if you all are aware, or if African people are aware in general. Alinko, you said earlier about how a lot of African Americans, we have been very dedicated to the church, and there is a great falling away. And the reason why is because, and I can't, again, don't speak for everyone, but the majority, including myself, feels that there is an internal conflict. Our spirituality has been weaponized against us because we are naturally a spiritual people. It has been used against us in slavery to keep us docile, to keep us submissive. And now a lot of people, particularly in my millennial generation, we're doing a lot of research. We're educating ourselves and understanding that a lot of our ancestors were enslaved with the Bible, with the words of the Bible. And a lot of torture and brutality was justified through the Bible in slavery. And so my question to you all as leaders in the church, do you have a conflict internally about that? One, and two, as the church is supposed to be universal and we're all members, how do you feel about the ugly truth that I guess that we're bringing light to now as a man of the cloth?
Okay, so if I might take a shot at that.
Yes.
You know, Michelle, this is one of the things I think part of one of the reasons why I am so taken by the story of our people in the American diaspora.
Yes. On that
There's
note,
something-
please hold on. We have a caller. Please hold on to that one. I will have you continue. Caller, please tell us your name and why you're calling.
My name is Akwete Mensah Akron. I'd
Brother-
love to comment on the question that Michelle asked.
Well, he's a pastor too, so. But please make it quick for us so that Mazi Kanayo can continue his submission.
Absolutely.
All right.
So yeah, that's a beautiful question. So I always say that one of the biggest things about the church is that the individuals in church rely too heavily on leaders, not just for leadership, but for understanding of the Word of God. I think many times our leaders sometimes are miseducated. Our leaders are also sometimes influenced by outside forces to do what they do. So instead of people understanding the Word of God for themselves and being led, they'll rather have someone lead them and also understand the Word of God for them. And this is how we get in a situation where the Word of God is used in a negative manner instead of a positive manner. So the Word of God, it already says it's a double-edged sword. So that means it cuts on both sides. It can actually be used for negative and also be used for positive. So the same way that they use the Word of God to enslave people is the same way that the people who were abolitionists use the Word of God to free people at the same time. So it is the same Word of God, but yet it has been used in two different ways. And the difference between the two different ways is people's understanding of the Word of God and people's motivation in what they want.
Yeah.
So it depends on your motivation, how you use the Word of God. The way it's appropriately supposed to be used for freedom, for freeing everyone, or if your motivation is negative, it can used to enslave other people. There's a movie called The Book of Eli, Denzel Washington acting in it.
Yeah.
And the villain of the movie was actually looking for the Bible. And he was asked, why are you looking for the Bible? He said, because it is a weapon. I'm a governor and I have control over people by force. I don't want to force people into that kind of submission. I want to use religion to make it so I don't have just their bodies, but I have their souls on top. See, if you can control someone's life on this earth, that's one thing. But if they perceive you control their life and then life to come, you have everything about that person. And that's what we see in the Middle Ages with the Pope. The Pope was able to influence so many atrocities and so many different things that were so negative because in their minds, it was perceived that their everlasting life was in this man's hands.
Right.
So religion has played a big role, but because many times it's been in the hands of the wrong people with negative motivation, it's been used negatively.
Yeah.
But in the hands of the right people, it can be used positively. Now, that was an answer of Michelle's question, but I wanted to add another thing.
Quickly.
In my mind, especially as it pertains to what do Africans do right now, knowing that we had such a big role in slavery. Slavery was an evil. We participated. I'm a Ghanaian. We participated. That is without a doubt. And I've said many times before that what should have been done for African Americans in America is full restitution. That 40 acres and a mule should have been done from the get-go. Now they wouldn't have then 100 years later, we wouldn't have to have affirmative action and all kinds of provisions being made for Black people. Then you give us all an equal footing. Let me tell you, right now in Ghana, even though we don't think, there is so much land over there in Ghana. There's so much land in Nigeria. I think right now what we can do for people in African Americans is actually say, you know what, we did wrong to you. Here is a piece of land with your name on it. This is where your ancestors would have been. This is where you are. We offer this to you as restitution. Take it, come and be where you're supposed to be. And I think that will solve a lot of it.
Amen. My brother, you will now become president and vice president.
You're the president. It's
and then we can bring Snoop Dogg home. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. All right.
Yeah,
yes,
so
bless you too. Dr. Kanayo, please.
Yes, what I was about to say is, again, faith does not belong to any ethnicity. The framework that Michelle constructed regarding the attitude of our millennia is assuming that Christ or spirituality that is tied to God, the creator of all things, belongs to the Europeans. The story of Jesus is the story of a Jewish rabbi, teacher. A story that began with Abraham. A story that goes back to Noah, from who is our progenitor. Remember that life began in Africa. So a relationship between us and God dates back from the day of creation. So it's not anybody's religion. It's a relationship that God himself has with humanity. And that is why I've always asked myself, why will the Africans adapt Christianity in America that was propagated by their oppressor and drop their belief system that with which they came out? Remember here, Christianity was not offered liberally to the African. If not for the Wesleyan revival, the African was, in fact, there were theologians who were teaching that Africans didn't have a soul, so they didn't have to be proselytized. In Virginia, it was illegal to enslave a Christian. Therefore, it was convenient to make sure that no African said, I'm born again. And so the African saw Christ and knew him for who he was, and they embraced him. And they were praying for their master to be free because Christ had liberated them. Because let me tell you, freedom means more. Freedom is actually born in the heart of the oppressed, not in the hearts of those who are the oppressor. And I got that quote from Professor Gilbert, because it's true. So that was why Joseph could tell his brothers, you meant this for evil, but God meant it for good. Because Joseph at that time was free. His brothers had shared the guilt. And if you know the story, they were already thinking about, oh man, why is this Egyptian prince harassing us? Maybe because of our brother, or maybe because of what we did to him. The guilt of their sinful act was grieved them at that time. But Joseph ministered grace to them when eventually he told them who he was. You see, and one of the things that I'm looking forward to is continually the African diaspora confronting Africa. I like what my fellow brother said when he said, let's give them reparation. The reparation needs to start from Africa. Citizenship, full rights of return should be given to every African.
Every African American, you mean?
Every African who left who was born in the diaspora, whose parents were descendants of those who were trafficked. But the point, though, is Christianity is a relationship between a man and his God through Christ. It does not belong. He came to Europe the same way. Remember that he came to Africa before he went to Europe.
Yeah.
Ethiopian Enoch was reached. Jesus drank the water of Nile. That was where he hid. When God needed a place to hide his son from being killed by the Romans, where did he bring him? He sent him to Africa. Out of Africa, Egypt will I call my son.
You know, Michelle, once you brought up the Christianity thing, I know that these two pastors, these two people.
No, it's not about being it's reality. It is truth.
No,
I
know you.
But you see, if I may just say this quickly,
yeah.
This journey of reconciliation can only happen among people who understand the providence of God. And that's all that Joseph was telling his brothers.
Yeah.
You did something wrong to us, but God has placed me in a position to be of good help to you, and I've achieved, and I've accomplished. There's a purpose. America will not have been built without the Africans here. Let's know that. That's true.
Apostle, you said something.
I wanted to add something a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's like the caller said, we cannot rely so much. We cannot rely so much.
But Uncle Nat says,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, Michelle, we cannot rely so much on the leadership of the church. There's actually a text, Philippians chapter 2, verse 12, that says that every man, every woman should work out their own salvation with fear and trembling. You know, I have said on this line how low I was, how filthy I was. I was in darkness. But now I have seen the light. And it's for my own good. Between me now and prison, it's very far. Because now I'm able to do the right thing. Why do I have to put my welfare on another person? I mean, I understand that they have to lead. I understand that they have to direct. But then the responsibility also lies on me to live right. And I must do that with all ambition, with all eagerness. You see, with all fear and trembling. Because at the end of the day, if the good results come, it's for myself and not for my pastor and not for any other person. I have to live right. I have to make sure I live right. And that's me.
Okay. So, Michelle, you brought it. Now you have it. You called for it.
Listen, I'm here for it. That's why I'm here. So listen to the question, Apostle. You mentioned something earlier about, I really love the example you used with Joseph and his brothers and how he ended up becoming like a governor in Egypt, right? And he ended up saving his family from poverty.
Yes.
So my question, you mentioned earlier in the conversation about how the tables have kind of turned between African Americans and Africans in terms of position, or expound a little bit more on that, please?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, think about it. The largest number of millionaires are African Americans. The largest number of scholars, academics are African Americans. The largest number of politicians, of accomplished administrators, and people who have impacted the world in the music industry, in the sports arena, in every facet of life.
Dr. Kanayo, are you talking in the context of the African diaspora?
That's right. The Africans in the American diaspora and all throughout have accomplished more than those of us on the continent.
I perfectly agree with you. I don't know, for some reason, anytime you start talking, somebody wants to ring and interrupt you. It's not my fault. It's the caller's fault. We have a caller on the line. We'll take that. We'll come back to your point. Please tell us, caller. Please tell us your name and why you're calling.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Alinko and Michelle. My name is Latrice.
Latrice.
And I'm an African American. I'm a nurse, older female.
Okay.
So you all were talking about the discussion of Africans, selling Africans in slavery. I get it and I understand it, that happened and it was very intentional and deliberate. But Africans did not benefit off of slavery in the bigger scheme of things. And also, I really, really believe something diabolical and evil, even more evil, happened when the Europeans enslaved Africans. And I understand that, there were the human trafficking that happened on the continent. And I do believe that it was, very strategic there. And I believe that there is some reconciliation that needs to happen as a result of that. But I still think that there is something distinctively different when Europeans enslaved Africans, because then they became animals. They raped men and women. And I'm not sure how that happened, what happened on the continent, if that happened, amongst Africans, raping men and so on and so forth. I don't know. But all I know is that something evil, more diabolical happened when Europeans did that to Africans. And they also sold whites into slavery. It's called Barbary slavery. So Europeans did sell their own people into slavery. It wasn't to the death and scale of Africans, but it certainly, happened. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Latrice, for making a brilliant point and contributing to the community building show. We are very grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Go ahead, Dr. Kanayo.
Yeah. I think the temptation will be to say that one group of people did worse than the others. But let me say this. The issue of slavery, slave trade, trafficking is a human problem. All through history, various peoples, in fact, that talks about it, it's not hidden about, it's a human problem. The reason why the US Marines was started was because Libya and the Moroccans were laying American ships and enslaving Americans, the Moors. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
I mean, this is happening 1800s. So in present day, so it's not like, oh, these people are bad. Oh, these people are also good. The Africans did it nicely. These people didn't do it. Look, long before there was Transatlantic, there was Trans-Sahara. And evil is evil.
Yeah.
What is wrong is what is wrong.
Absolutely.
Now, but the issue still remains what we need to do now.
Yes. And what we need to do now, if you can hold on to that, we're going to try and get this other video that we wanted to share quickly so that we can get some more understanding of what took place. Again, might remember that we're trying to, the show is about, did we contribute to slavery? And I guess, now I don't guess, at this point, all of us on this panel, including some of the people that have contributed to the show, agree that Africans, indigenous Africans, contributed to slavery. To drive the point home, so that's not just us saying it, we have a couple of other experts who have spoken on this matter, and this is one of them. This also
by their fellow Africans, for whom this was a business that was in large part under their control.
One cannot expect the European to mount expeditions in the hinterland of Africa to catch slave or to enslave people. It is coastal political groups that organize the expedition. Coastal people were armed with the latest technology, guns, and they were able to capture the neighbors. So you have this kind of economic system based on the use of lethal force to be able to provide the commodity needed for the system. That couldn't work without the participation of local African coastal states.
Why did they do it?
It is really hard to say, but we have to remove morality from this kind of issue. What is the common expression for that? It is called real politics, meaning there are no sentiments there. Coastal power use the power to seize people and sell them for the profit.
Were they fully aware of the kind of fate that might befall these Africans whom they had sold to Europeans?
As Africans, we have to face it. They knew that enslavement is not a garden party. Selling somebody, whatever you think about it, is not for the pleasure of that person. Even the treatment of war prisoners suggests that they knew what the fate of these people would be once they are sold.
But you know this argument is often used by some non-African historians to almost in a way explain and to some extent excuse the actions of the Europeans and North Americans.
Yes, I'm very, very well aware of that.
And aren't you just bolstering that argument?
No, I'm not. I mean, we have to be true to ourselves. Europeans didn't launch war to capture Africans in the hinterland. They use the local system to have provision of people. And maybe they subvert it a little bit by providing weapons, by providing alcohol, by providing these symbols of power. But we have to clean our house, okay? And to really have a kind of a healing process, because, sorry to say that, but African contributed to the shipment of Africans in the Americas.
This is very important, what we're doing. because we believe in the journey of healing
Mhm.
and reconciliation. And that is why it's very important that you all take note of the journey of reconciliation that is going to happen in Panama. This May coming 19th from May 19th to May 25th. It's going to be in Panama. Is the journey of kings and queens from Africa who are going all the way to Panama to reconcile with the children based off what happened so many years ago. So you want to keep watching the Progressive Minds. Check out our social media. We will be putting information regarding this event. It's organized by Sixth Region Chamber Sixth Region Global Chamber of Commerce, which is owned by Dr. Melida Harris Barrow. Dr. Melida Harris Barrow is the president and CEO of Sixth Region Global Chamber of Commerce. We're partners. We're working with them. This event is going to be a memorable one. It's going to be done on a yearly basis from Panama. To be coming to the United States. We're going to other diaspora nations to finally engage fellow diasporans and take responsibility. And again, these are going to be African kings and queens that are going to be embarking on this journey. So May 19th to 25th this year, keep that date in mind. If you want more information, you can go to Sixth Region Global Chamber of Commerce. You'll get more information there. You can also look out for the Progressive Mind social media pages. In that light, the Progressive Minds have been embarking on these type of conversation, this type of events. We have one coming up. We were supposed to have had it this coming Saturday, but due to Omicron and some challenges, it didn't happen. It's called the Exchange Ceremony, which is basically Africans, African Americans, Caribbeans coming together, and Latino to exchange our culture. It's basically about what we had, what we lost, what we have become. We're going to be coming together to celebrate our culture and our humanity. Is going to be held at the Rainbow Push. Reverend Jesse Jackson is going to be honored. We had to reschedule it from this coming month, this coming Saturday, to January 5th. So please stay tuned. We're going to be giving you more information on this. We'll get now. I know that with time has been spent, this has been a very insightful conversation so far. For those of you who have not been able to ring in, if you want to do so right now, before Dr. Kanayo start talking, we don't want any of you interrupting Dr. Kanayo. All right, and so I know there are some few comments, but I would like to. This one is very, very important. This video is the next one is shorter, very, very significant to everything we have said. It's going to be a culmination of the conversation we are having. And if you are a diasporan, Caribbean or African American, this video is very important. I would like you to watch and listen to it carefully. Before we do that, any comments so far from any of you before I play this one as we end the show? Michelle, no. Okay, Dr. Khan. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take care of this. Just bear with us one moment while we bring you this. Elder William, I know you have 4 boys to go attend to, and I will let you go in a minute. Dr. Kanayo, how did it go with your wife's situation? The snow, everything?
Oh, sure. We got out of it quickly, So thanks for friends, passers-by, people who stop by. Yep. Yeah.
The husband went and saved his wife. He saved the day. Man, let's give him a hand for that, bro. You're the man. That's how it's supposed to be. Black love.
That's right.
Yes. Who tell you say black love no day? We love our people, papa. We are strong in love. We are not. We don't ascribe to.
We are very privileged to be with you, particularly our brothers and sisters.
I'm sorry.
And the diaspora. And
I'm sorry, we have a technical issue. We'll try this again. This one is very important, so please bear with us. The devil's a liar. We're going to do this. It is happening. It's happening. All right, here we go.
We are very privileged to be with you, particularly our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean and the diaspora. And people from all over Africa, our brothers and sisters from all over Africa. I wish at this point to particularly to apologize deeply on behalf of the chiefs and people of Gold Coast and Ghana for the atrocities, the cruelty, the inhuman treatment that were committed 400 years ago by my ancestors during the Atlantic slave trade, where over 400 years ago, millions of our brothers and sisters were captured, sold, and transported under inhumane and cruel circumstances through Elmina Castle across to the Caribbeans and to the New World. On behalf of the chiefs and people of Ghana, I do render unqualified apology, deep from the bottom of our hearts. Deep from our bottom of our hearts. But one thing that I want you to be aware of, it was not without resistance. Some of our chiefs did fought and resisted. Some of our people did fought and resisted. But we are fighting a losing battle against a stronger army.
Well, thank you for bearing with us. This was a video. This was not a video. This was a ceremony that was done in Ghana. This is one of the chiefs representing the House of Chiefs in Ghana that was rendering an official apology. Some of the people that you see standing there were not just Ghanaians or Africans, but they were diasporans who had flown to Ghana to be part of this ceremony. And I think that this is not just the only one. If you do some research, Ghanaians, or I'm sure some other African countries too, but I'm Ghanaian, so I can speak to that, have, publicly come out to accept their involvement, the African involvement, our ancestors' involvement in the transatlantic slavery, and have rendered official apology. Now, this touches my heart, hearing from a chief, leader of the communities, whose ancestors aided in this, coming forth to sincerely apologize. And we hope that if you're watching this show for the first time or listening to this the first time, and you are an African American or Caribbean, we hope that you, or Latina person, we hope that you will take this in good faith and accept that you may not hear this on mainstream media, but this is actually going on. And this is what we are dedicated to do, the Progressive Minds, to bring you some of these information, to let you know that the African, even on the continent, has no resentment towards fellow Blacks here in the diaspora. And so we love you, and we're extending a hand of love and peace. And we say that I too stand on the shoulders of my ancestors and say that we're sorry. Beginning Black History Month 2022, February 2nd, that I apologize on behalf of my ancestors. I apologize on behalf of my people that had caused harm to my fellow Black African American, my fellow African Americans, Caribbeans, for everything that has gone on, transpired. We're not going to dwell in history, but we ought to know and understand history so we can move forward. And that is why we do this, to take leadership in the working out of our relationship in the diaspora. Guys, I know time has been fast spent, but I'll let you all give us your last comments, your last words. And I'm going to start with Elder William, because I know you have to leave soon.
Yeah, so Michelle, we love you guys. You are our cousins. We used to live in ignorance, but no more. Now we have understanding. We have studied, and we love you guys. It's not an easy thing to apprehend right now. The relationship is still under development. We are still developing.
Yeah.
And I know after the 400 years, we are coming together. And it's going to work really, really quick. And
the church is doing a lot in this. He's an elder. He's leading that charge. But I think we'll come back again and dwell on the church's role, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, Dr. Kanayo, before we get your last comments, there has been a few comment. The last word that has been a few comments. Let's take this one from K. Mensah. Before Christianity, the black man communicated with God. Do you say what guided our forefathers? So, K. Mensah, your question, the last part is a little confusing. Do you say? I think he meant to say, what do you say guided our forefathers in the wrong direction? I'm guessing that's what you mean.
Do you say what guided our forefathers were bad?
Okay, probably. Dr. Kana, you want to respond to that quickly? I know time has been fast spent, but if you can quickly. I'm sorry, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Basically it's economics. That's so and some of it was hatred, tribal differences, ethnic differences, or people didn't just like each other. So it's all myriad of things that took place. God didn't tell us to do it. We did it, and that's the point. Again, one of the things that Joseph was insistent on was that his brothers do not dwell in their past mistakes. Over and over, they were very concerned about, will he do us bad? If our father dies, when Jacob dies, will he come after us? Joseph reassured them steadily. Says, forget about it. What is in the past is in the past.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that what is left for us, the survivors, both those who were victims because like I said, they're victims on both sides. There are families here who are recent African immigrants that lost family members in the transatlantic slave trade.
Elder has to go. Elder, I know you have to go.
Yes.
So you're just go ahead and say your hello, your last word, whatever information you want.
Before Christianity, the black man communicated with God. Do you say what guided our forefathers were bad? Whatever guided our forefathers did not bring them to a point of realization. And that is why Africa is
realization of what?
A realization of self.
Okay.
Yes. It did not bring them unity. And that is why Africa is still divided. There's still tribalism.
Yeah.
There's still infighting, backbiting, corruption, bribery. Whatever our forefathers, the foundation they laid for us wasn't the right one. You see, Christianity, like I always say, and I mentioned earlier, that it's supposed to make a man to know who he is. It's spirituality. Spirituality is coming out from darkness into light. You see, and I'm a product of it. If I have to tell you my story about my forefather, it will shock you.
Okay.
What my ancestors really did, it will shock you. But then I saw that it wasn't right. Now I have to find a way. And I did. And it has helped me. It has really helped me.
All right. And I know your baby is waiting on you, so I know you got to go. And we really have to end the show. Dr. Kanayo, we have to get you back. We have to get you back on a day that on non-snow day. So guys, forgive me. Everybody knows Alinko. I like to joke all the time, but this is on the good note, on a good day, I think that this we can basically zero in on the Christianity aspect of the diaspora conversation, and I think that if we have more time with Dr. Kanayo, we're gonna learn a lot. But you can still follow him at WVON, where he shares some of these things and more. Dr. Kanayo, please give us your final words. And I'm sorry we will not be able to take most of the comments because we have to go. It's 3 minutes past. And Dr. Elder William Osei, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing. God bless you. We hope and look forward to seeing you again. Michelle, you have any comments and last words for Elder Osei before he leaves?
It was a pleasure to meet you and talk with you, and I hope to have another conversation with you.
All right, Elder Osei, have a wonderful evening. So as we wrap up, hopefully Dr. Kanayo have some a little bit of free time for us to maybe respond to some of the comments. Would that be okay?
Okay. Yes.
Cool. All right. Before we could take some more comments, Michelle, any questions or anything you want to add?
I just would like to continue the conversation. I know that this month will be focused around Black history and slavery. So I think that we should definitely, I see a lot of comments from people wanting to continue the conversation in terms of Black spirituality and slavery. So that is definitely something that I would like to pose that we continue to explore this month.
Awesome. We have a comment here. Hello, Bridget Ajiman. That's my sister, my lovely sister in Virginia. Hi, Bridget. I hope you and your husband are listening and taking notes. Your husband is also a very spiritual man, powerful man, so we can have him on the show to engage. Kay says, thanks. We need more on this topic. Okay, there you go. Doctor, please address the church's role in the future. Thank you. Okay, so we got this. And this is from Ate. Let us be back to point fingers on the evil that was done, but rather work to correct the issues. Okay, so those were the comments, and there was one here. Our Black African American brothers and sisters are our Joseph. I'm saying this because it's because of them we are able to walk freely and do things freely without being identified, even though some of us don't have legal documents to stay here. We appreciate and love you as our brothers and sisters. Wow, that's very powerful. Any comments to that, Michelle?
Yeah, I never really thought of it from that perspective. That comment in itself was very enlightening to me. In your point of view of us in terms of finding protection while here in the States. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, and if I might add to that, it will surprise you to know, Michelle, and to most of our listeners, our destinies have always been tied together. Alinko, you mentioned that at Ghana's independence in 1957 that Martin Luther King spoke. It wasn't by accident. Because the idea of African independence from European colonialism, that idea began in the American diaspora. And a lot of the leaders that were used in that movement, people like great Zeke of Africa, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Kwame Nkrumah, who actually was Zeke when he returned back from Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, that helped and encouraged him to go to Lincoln. And so you find that the songs of freedom, the civil rights movement, the education that the Africans received in HBCUs, historically Black colleges, were liberating such that many of them came back to Africa. And the idea of Pan-Africanism was born in the African diaspora.
There you go.
And that's what brought the Europeans to leave. And partly the reason was that African American scholars and activists went to Europe, held Pan-African conferences, and educated European public on the atrocities that their colonial governments have been perpetuating in Africa. And that was part of the thing that spurred the movement, even in Europe, to decolonize. The Europeans did not leave willingly. But the African Americans, again, playing their Joseph role. They loved our people so much that the first set of missionaries that returned back to the Africa were African Americans. How could the Europeans know our language, if not the Africans who left, who knew the language that came back to us? The first set of Africans that returned back to the continent were African Americans who fought on the side of the British during the American Revolutionary War and was promised freedom. Britain took them to Nova Scotia. They didn't like it. They went to London. Eventually, the Freetown Project was burned in Sierra Leone. They bought the land in Freetown and created a colony where those Africans returned. The first set of people were returnees. Then you had Jamaicans who were expelled, Africans who were expelled out of Jamaica. There were Africans who were expelled out of Brazil. There were also recaptives, Africans who never made it to the plantations, but were rescued from slave ships and brought to Freetown. That Freetown became the birthplace, the first true point of return for most African diaspora. They became the birthplace of the missionary movement that saw the evangelization of West Africa. And that actually brought a great impetus to the movement that now led to independence, because a lot of the initial scholars of Africa went to Furabe College, that was at Freetown. So our destinies have been tied. After the civil rights movement and the death of Martin Luther King, the African American political establishment and intellectuals pulled back, especially when the Europeans were successful in killing the idea of Pan-Africanism. When Nkrumah, for example, was branded a communist, and Herbert Hoover went after him, and eventually they started implementing coup d'etats that have rid Africa of intellectual leaders and brought juntas that have continued to become agents of the neo-colonialistic movement. That's how the African Americans disappeared from Africa, and that's why Africa is still in its troubled state. And so the plea is re-engagement.
Wow.
Because you can speak from the most powerful position, like Joseph could speak concerning his brothers. And that is the truth.
We can keep going, but we have to end somewhere. Yeah, this is a wealth of information. I told you, he doesn't have the title historian to his name, but he's more than a historian. And so Dr. Mazi Kanayo Adeluga, thank you so much for your time and the information you've shared, your education this evening is immense and is very appreciated. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, it's just been very powerful. I feel full and still want a little bit more. So I look forward to us having you back and continuing the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Mazi Kanayo Adeluga is also one of the leading members when it comes to the diaspora relationship, repairing relationships in the diaspora. I know he does this in his church. One of the ways that I've got to know him is through these. I know you have groups and you have these conversations about diaspora, our relationship, and he's been doing this for years. But we will come back here and then you'll get to know more about him and a lot of the things that he has to share with us. Well, on that note, we will want to bring this episode of the Progressive Mind Show to an end. We are glad that we have been able to start strongly Black History Month in the year 2022. Today is February 2nd. We're looking forward to very exciting and very important conversations in these realms as the weeks roll by. Stay tuned to the Progressive Mind Show. Visit our website and our social media platforms. Follow us, like us, subscribe to our channel so that when we come on live, you can hear us and you can be part of this conversation, of this community building process. Also, share our information. It's the only way we can all build a community together. Michelle, your last comments before we wrap up. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm excited about the next show. This was my first. I was a little nervous, but I thank you all so much for being so gracious and welcoming me. I feel welcomed. And I look forward to next week's show.
So that's somebody, so he says, thanks, my sister Michelle. Akbe in, I mean, he's trying to speak the local the local dialect from Ghana. Akbe means thank you. That's my dialect. There where people will say thank you. Mazi Kanayo, how would you say thank you in Igbo? Dalu. Okay. All right. To everyone that has been following us, that's been with us and called and contributed to this show, our wonderful audience, Dalu to you all. Okay. And Mazi Kanayo, Dalu 3 times. Okay.
Thank you.
Say hi.
Yes.
You say what, Oshe?
No, I say Ekbe.
Ekbe. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Is Akbe. Dalu is Akbe in Igbo. There are a lot of things going on in Biafra, Igbo. We have to come here and get some education. So there's a lot to unfold. So stay tuned to the Progressive Minds and be a contributor and builder of our community. Mazi Kanayo, my regards to the family.
Thank you.
You're welcome. To our audience, thank you so much. To whom much is given, much is required. This has been the Progressive Mind Show. I am your host, Alinko, and our great co-host, Michelle. Michelle, it's been wonderful hosting this very first one with you. Looking forward to a lot more. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
It took you forever.